Hi, everybody. This is Chris.
And this is Matt.
And this is not 2020. This is
No,
2021. But we're going to talk about 2020.
but we're not going to review 2020.
Oh, hell no.
We're going to have a book club style discussion about it.
But not about all of 2020 because,
God, who's got
dear
the
God,
time?
leave it alone. It's done. It's dead. It's in the past. But we played some games then we'd like to talk about again. So
We played a lot of games.
Played a lot of games.
We played, how many games was it? 22?
22 games last year.
Yeah.
Some of them, like Darklands, took more than 1 month, but all of them took some of our time. Let's put it that way. Some more than others, but all of them took time.
And this is our it's not an award show because that smacks of like organization and communication prior to this, and we haven't done that.
Never do that.
So we choose our best and worst in several categories, and then we debate them and change our minds, and it's very unreliable.
Yeah.
And it means absolutely nothing.
Right. And there's no trinkets or anything to be given out. Just as a quick rundown of what were the games we played last year: Airborne Ranger, Ascendancy, Beachhead, Bruce Lee, Crusader, No Remorse, Darklands, Defender of the Crown, Deus Ex, Hacker, Impossible Mission, Legacy of the Ancients, Maniac Mansion, Oids and Dark Star. No, it wasn't Oid, was it?
I think it was Oid.
Was it Oid? Okay.
Something like that.
Rise of the Triad, Road War, Shadowgate, Street Beat, Summer Games, Terminal Velocity, Wolfenstein 3D, and let's not forget about Zorro.
Last and most certainly least, Zorro. I'm impressed that you took the time to put those in alphabetical order.
Well,
I liked that.
Did you? Like, here's how you do it. You put them in a spreadsheet, and you hit the button on top.
I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about. Because I think what we risk when we do this is that the most recent game we played is the freshest in our mind, and so we're either biased for or against it, depending on if it was good. I think that's a thing that can happen. And I mean, putting them in alphabetical order doesn't prevent that, but it was nice to see them like laid out in a
non-chronological
way. Yes,
I agree with that. I was actually thinking about that in a couple of cases where I'm like, what was the most category this game? And I'm like, oh, this one. I'm like, yeah, but that was like one of the recent games. Are you sure? Like, think about them a second, because
some of them had to go look up our videos on them to remember what the hell they were. I was like, Impossible Mission, what the hell was that like? Like, I didn't remember it at all.
The only review of 2020 I'll give is that 2020 was a decade unto itself. Remembering stuff from the beginning feels like forever ago.
Yeah, there were a few that I was like, oh man, I do not remember that at all. But luckily,
Which one don't you remember? Do you have one where you're like, oh yeah, this one? Like, I didn't remember doing that.
I didn't remember much about Beachhead. I didn't remember what Impossible Mission was even like. I think the rest of them I remembered. There were distinct things about them that I remembered. Like Shadowgate, I might not have remembered were it not for that Super Apple interface. Like, that was like, oh, that's what that game is.
I forgot that Shadowgate and Legacy of the Ancients were this year. Like,
me too.
When I saw them on the list, I'm like, oh yeah, we did those this year, didn't we? Yeah,
totally. Especially Legacy of the Ancients, because it was a big deal. Like, it's like a full-on RPG, and we just like both forgot that we did it.
Forgot we did it.
This is what you're in for, folks. If you're still watching, this is.
If you're coming back and commenting on a video like years or months after, I will still come back in and comment and talk to you about it. But you do have to understand that by the end of the year, we've moved on. Our brains have left those in the past. So
often at the end of the month, our brains have moved on.
Pretty much. By the time we've gotten into the next game, I'm not thinking about the last one anymore. Unless it's really good, like Road War. Road War was really good.
I still think about Road War. 2000,
which leads into sort of the first topic. Fun. Worst, then best, and you can give any honorable mentions you want.
Okay. This is going to be... You're going to be mad at me for saying this.
I doubt it.
The least fun I had was with Airborne Ranger.
No, that's not surprising. I'm going
because
to
I
challenge you on it in a second, but go on.
I know. And like once I understood what was fun about Airborne Ranger, it was probably too late to save it because like we talked about, what's fun about it is like plotting your route and being strategic and reacting to failed plans.
Mhm.
But for me, I just like kept playing it thinking it was going to be something and it never was, and I just didn't have fun with it. So that was my least fun.
You had less fun with Airborne Ranger than you had with Ascendancy. With
Over
Zorro.
overall Ascendancy was, we'll talk about Zorro. Zorro is definitely an honorable
Did you
mention
just
for
cross
me.
Zorro off, just like Hall of Famed it and put
I was
it
like, I
away?
can't list it as worst for everything. So Ascendancy, I considered because that was frustrating, but I had a roller coaster ride with Ascendancy, and there were times that it was really fun. But with
Fair
Airborne
enough.
Ranger, I could never get there. And by the time I understood that maybe what it would take to get there, we were done with it. And then I was already had so much sunk cost in it that I didn't want to go back.
I get it. I get that. That's totally fair, and I can totally see that. Best.
The most fun I think I had was Deus Ex.
Really? Okay.
I really liked it. I liked the world. I had a lot of fun playing it. It was like it's a good, really good game,
Mm-hmm.
and it's interesting, and the world is great. I had a lot of fun with it.
I'm wondering if I would have had more fun if I was coming to it the first time or something else, because like it was fine to me. It's a good game. I'm not gonna knock it at all, but yeah, it's not my most. So we'll talk about that in a second. You had any honorable mentions or anything you want to throw in there?
Um, I I also had not very much fun with Hacker.
I can see that too.
Hacker is just like not my idea of fun. Now I'm not saying it's not rewarding or interesting or effective, but it's definitely not what I would consider fun. Having to do the same thing perfectly over and over again is just not that much fun.
No, and it goes to that definition of fun I always use, where it's giving something like attention or energy that doesn't necessarily deserve it. Hacker doesn't make you do that, so I can see that too.
What was your least fun?
Ascendancy, easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, Zero gets an honorable mention,
Hmm.
but for a while with Zorro, I liked I felt like there was a moment, and then I figured out how to turn the music off, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting somewhere, and I started to make headway, and I started to have fun, and then I got to a screen and couldn't, and I'm like, oh, I'm so done with you. I'm so done with you.
Hmm.
But Ascendancy, I loaded it up, and I saw all the different aliens, and I thought, this is weird. This is going to be a fun weird. And that was the
Hmm.
last moment I had fun with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Those 4X, are they 4X
Yeah.
games? Always are very engaging to me at the beginning, and then fail to hold my attention through mid to late game. That's all. Like all those games are like that. Civ, I always get super engaged, and then I just kind of hit a wall at some point. So I agree that Ascendancy was not fun, but it didn't make my least fun list.
Yeah. The game I had the most fun with was Road War 2000.
Yeah, I again, like I can't list Road War as the best for everything. So
I gave. I mean, it was just because I'd never played it before. It came completely out of left field at me. It was something I could get into the world, even though it's a little candy colored when we played on the Amiga. I forgave a lot of its interface issues because I knew it was a conversion from a Commodore, and I like Commodore games, so for me, that was no problem. But cars and guns and done well, just
great
very
combat.
happy.
Like yeah,
Yeah.
Road War has so much going for it. It's a good game, and like I definitely would not argue with listing that as the most fun.
Honorable mention I gave to Legacy of the Ancients.
Yeah, Legacy of the Ancients was fun.
Yeah.
It's varied and interesting. Really good game.
I really like one of the things I saw going through this our list this year. There aren't a lot of. I mean, you had some that you apparently didn't like. I was gonna say there weren't a lot of bad games, but you were like, this game wasn't fun. This game wasn't.
Overall, it was a good year. Like, and some of the games that I said weren't fun still had redeeming qualities.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Hacker had redeeming qualities. It just wasn't that much fun.
Right. Okay. Interface. Worst and best.
Next category, interface. I called out Ascendancy for having an interesting interface. And not interesting good.
I was going to say, I'll just say right now, that's my worst. I hated the Ascendancy interface.
Yeah. The Ascendancy interface was... the thing about it was that it had highs and lows. Like,
yeah,
the tooltips were great, but sometimes there just weren't tooltips for things. Their insistence on putting things in 3D that didn't need to be in 3D was infuriating, and I hated that.
Mm-hmm.
But I listed that as interesting.
Yeah, it gave everything that alien vibe, but I'm not an alien, so don't do that.
Right. It wasn't good. But worst I gave to Crusader No Remorse for its clunky movement and dubious targeting. It drove me nuts. I didn't like it. Not a good interface.
I thought about that too, but I'm like, no, it's got enough where you're like clicking through things and you've got multiple ways to do things, and I was able to do it, so I can't grape it too much. But
I was able to do it, but I kept getting stuck on conveyor belts and unable to like get through little spaces that I wanted to get through. It drove me nuts. Like I didn't like it. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry, everyone, because I know it's loved by people far and wide, but
yeah. Okay. Best
interface I gave to Legacy of the Ancients for being a really solid old school RPG interface. Like SSI knows how to do those. They did it really well with Legacy of the Ancients. The verbs make sense. Everything's pretty much where you expect it to be, and if it's not, the manual is also really good. See the manual category.
Yeah. My worst, obviously, Ascendancy. The interface for best, I had to at least mention and point out Maniac Mansion. I felt like there would be pitchforks and torches if I didn't say Maniac Mansion has a really good interface. Why don't you take a second, look over the list, and try and guess what I picked for the best interface?
The best interface?
You will never get this one.
I don't know. Definitely not Airborne Ranger. I hated the interface in Airborne Ranger because it has weird keys. Summer Games?
Street Beat.
Street Beat. Okay.
That's
not wrong. Like that, I can see where you got Street Beat.
I loved it's kind of like how you like the Populous, how it looked like things were part of something. I loved the boombox on the bottom. I loved that aspect of seeing things in your numbers, and everything felt right. I knew what everything was. I knew what I had to do. Everything sort of fit and made sense, and it was fun.
I think with Street Beat, and to a lesser extent even Airborne Ranger, growing up with a Commodore really makes you better at that because you understand what a Commodore keyboard was like and how it's laid out. But if you're coming into that cold without having a Commodore, those interfaces from a key standpoint might be confusing. But I definitely agree that Street Beat was cool, like very cool.
I think for anybody coming in, you have to have an understanding that there were 4 function keys. There were 8 function keys, but 4 keys. So F1, F3, F5, and F7 were just if you hit the key alone. So games used those 4 and not really 2, 4, 6, or 8.
Right.
And that is not conductive on a modern keyboard.
No, it doesn't make sense. It's weird.
No, it is. So yeah, I loved what they tried to do with it. I thought it was cool, and I felt like it deserves best for me. Villain. I will say I have a note under the interface. I didn't feel like there was a lot of good interface across the board.
Yeah, the Shadowgate interface I thought was quite interesting too, in a more positive way than the Ascendancy interface was interesting.
Yeah,
It's very like free form in a strange kind of way. It's like how to use separate windows in an interface, very early
yeah.
proto window management. It was it was effective and pretty good.
Where it falls apart for me is you had no sense of the weight or the scale or what you could interact with or how long a torch had left. You weren't given information you needed to play the game, even though the interface itself was new and unique and interesting.
Right.
Kind of like Maniac Mansion. On the Commodore, that interface was new and unique and interesting. It also was run with a joystick.
Right. Definitely not as good with a joystick.
Not as good with a joystick. I mean, once you got to mouse use, yes, it was better, but it's still semi annoying to me, but was better. So, and then Summer Games basically had no interface.
Right. Summer Games was just hitting buttons in the right at the right time.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the rest of them were serviceable, like Wolfenstein 3D.
Yeah.
That's a serviceable interface.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, villain. Worst villain, best villain.
The worst villain was my nemesis in Winter Games because we did a head to head Winter Games. So you were the worst villain.
I appreciate that.
That's it. That is a mean spirited joke. The worst villain I listed as Zorro because there is a villain, I think, but it's not interesting. And like with Zorro, you want to rescue the Senorita from someone, and it just did not deliver on the villainy. The best villain I gave to Maniac Mansion for the creepy the meteor and the mad scientist family, because they all had personality. They were like real people living their lives in this like creepy mansion, and they felt like real characters, and you don't necessarily always hate them either. Like I thought that was really good.
Yeah, I'm tempted to change my vote. I'm not gonna.
I mean, I gave Wolfenstein 3D an honorable mention just because you get to shoot Hitler and he melts in a pile of blood in the death cam, and like that's fantastic. Everyone wants to do that.
Yeah, Hitler's always a solid villain, but he doesn't do anything the rest of the game. It's
right.
I gave my worst villain to Defender of the Crown because you're just playing Risk against other people that you could play, so none of them are really. So there's no villain. Just taking over England because you want it.
Right. The reason I didn't pick Defender of the Crown was because I had moments where I was really mad at the other people, and like I didn't like what they were doing to me, and I felt something about them. But you're right that it is just basically playing mini games against a Risk map.
Yeah. So that was my worst villain. My best villain was Deus Ex.
Yeah.
I felt like fighting the global consortiums and all the like little henchmen they keep throwing at you as you amp it up. I liked that. That felt good to me.
Yeah, Deus Ex was really good.
So, okay, what game surprised you the least and surprised you the most?
The game that surprised me the least was, well, I gave Zorro the worst surprise because I thought I was going to like it, and I was surprised at how much I disliked it. So that's what I gave my worst to. Maybe we haven't nailed down exactly what worst surprise is.
No, that's fine.
My most surprising was Darklands because it was
fair.
A very complicated, interesting game that I just somehow totally missed, and it did a lot of really interesting things, and I thought it was great.
Yep. Zero obviously gets an honorable mention for me for being surprising. After Goonies, after Conan, I really went into this just expecting like that, but better, and it fell. The wheels just came completely off. So,
Yep.
for me, what I did with surprising was sort of what surprised me the least. What was the sort of worst surprise? Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I knew what I was getting with Bruce Lee. I got a great game with Bruce Lee. It's weird, but it's Bruce Lee. The one that surprised me the most was Crusader.
Oh.
I had such good memories of Crusader. And to play it again and go back and just be shaken at what.
Yeah. I know.
Like, wow.
I thought I was going to love it. Like I really did, because I really liked that art style and the layout and everything, the viewpoint, but I just didn't like it.
Didn't like it. Surprised me. Really, really surprised me. More than anything else on here. Because, like, Road War surprised me. Darklands surprised me. Airborne Ranger even surprised me a little. I think every game this year managed to surprise me a little. Not all of them in a good way. Rise of the Triad surprised me, not in a good way. Terminal Velocity surprised me in a very good way, you know?
Yeah.
It was way better than I remembered. So
Right.
So every game was a little surprising. Nostalgia.
Best nostalgia or most nostalgia was Maniac Mansion.
Okay.
I played it growing up. I remembered some of the puzzles, but not all. I liked it. Like I liked the feeling of coming back to it. Even though the game was not exactly as great as I remembered it, it's still a good game. It's still an important game. So that got my best nostalgia. Worst nostalgia, although I liked the game, I gave it to Rise of the Triad because I remembered it as being just fantastic and like so kind of subversive and weird. But now, like, I think it's because I'm an adult, it just felt over the top and not necessarily in a good way. Like it leaned too heavily on being weird, and it lacked consistency and depth. It was just like cram all the shit in Rise of the Triad, and here you go, ship it. You know,
Right. We don't have the rights to do everything we want to do. Let's put a bow on this, change a couple things around and be weird, and out the door.
Yep. Yeah. What about you?
My least nostalgic was Maniac Mansion. I didn't grow up with it. So, like, for me, it was coming into it for the first time. I played Zach McCracken, and I played a couple other LucasArts games. So there was, like, tinges of it. But not only was it something I didn't play a lot growing up, it has the most modern-esque puzzles and atmosphere. It set the trend for all the things we do now, that it doesn't feel like I'm going back to anything. It's just a game. It's just a good game.
Yeah.
So there was no nostalgia there for me. Most nostalgia was Legacy of the Ancients. I could picture me in 8th grade again. Like, just like that. Like,
Yeah. SSI games always give me a lot of nostalgia just because, like, I grew up, even though I didn't play Legacy of the Ancients specifically.
It's SSI.
SSI, it's like Questron, but a little different, you know?
Yeah.
They all kind of have that feel, and they're all great in their own way.
Actually, no, it's Electronic Arts, but you're right, it's Questron.
Right. Oh, yeah, right.
From the people who did Quest, yeah.
Right.
So to stop typing the comments. We got it right. We figured
I made that mistake too when we talked about it. I have not learned yet who made Legacy of the Ancients.
Well, it's the people who made Questron. So, and Questron was SSI. So
right.
And you can tell the difference in the manual. Like, you look at the Legacy of the Ancients manual versus the Questron manual. The Questron manual is just better. It's just a better manual.
Yep.
All right. I might take this one out next year, but I put it in this year, so we'll talk about it. Because we don't talk about graphics. There's no point. Whatever game came out latest will probably have the best graphics. And I kind of feel that way about sound and music. But there are a couple interesting things in here. So sound and music.
I feel very confident in my choices in this category.
Okay.
The best sound and music, absolutely 100%, was Terminal Velocity. The Terminal Velocity music is fantastic. The sound is good. Like, everything's great about it. Runner-up I gave to Street Beat because it had its own little jams, and that was fun. But you can't argue with the hard-hitting soundtrack of Terminal Velocity. Right. Just no way. Is that what you said?
I said Terminal Velocity. What's your worst?
I mean, Zorro, right?
Yeah.
That Zorro music. Fuck that music. It haunts my dreams to this day. It's just like, it's incessant.
Right. So that was mine too. I did give an honorable mention to Impossible Mission for the voice.
Oh, yeah. Right. That was very cool.
Voice is... iconic. That's the word I was looking for. I was going to say cliche, and I'm like, that's not the right word. It's iconic.
No.
Like, you can say stay a while, and anyone who's played the game will say stay forever, because it's in your head forever.
Right. No, that's a great call out.
Yeah, so that one. Introductions. I'm betting we have the same one, but go on.
The best I gave to Ascendancy.
I was wrong. Continue.
What did you say for the best? Let's discuss this.
What's your worst?
My worst was Maniac Mansion.
Okay.
Because it had an introduction, but it didn't do anything, and the game had such a unique tone and atmosphere that I felt like it was a missed opportunity not to like do something with that introduction other than showing a meteor land and then 2 or 3 lines of dialogue outside of the mansion.
Yeah, I can see that. It is a missed opportunity on that. My problem was I struggled to remember any of the intros, but there's one intro I remembered, so I'm giving that the best intro.
What is it?
Darklands.
Yes, I did remember the Darklands introduction, and that was definitely on my mind when I thought it. It was definitely the most memorable.
Right.
I did remember the Ascendancy introduction because it kind of it was interesting, and it did like the scope of space and time and all that kind of high concept stuff that I thought was really good. But yeah, it was definitely not as memorable as the Darklands intro.
Well, when you said Ascendancy, there was a brief moment where I'm like, what was the Ascendancy intro? Why did he like it? And I'm like, oh yeah, because it did the whole scope and it kind of framed everything. Yeah, I can see that. It's something like the Deus Ex intro. It's like, yeah, I can get, it sets the world stage and everything. It's fine. It does its
I went back and watched the Deus Ex intro thinking it was going to be the winner, but man, it's boring. Like, if it's just like these really poor, 2 poly people kind of like talking.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And it does a good job laying out some of the story elements, but not that great. Crusader gets an honorable mention because it had a solid origin style introduction movie that I enjoyed. But yeah, that's where I was with introductions.
We're on to manual. What's the best manual?
This one was hard. I went back and looked at a bunch of them, and ultimately I gave best manual to Impossible Mission because it had funny backstory and it did tell you very effectively how to play the game. So I appreciated it for its lightheartedness, and I thought it was pretty effective. Like, it told me what I needed to know, which was how to use that wrist computer thing.
Yeah. I know you won't agree. My honorable mentions for best manual went to Darklands because of like the history and the everything else. Like, that's a thick, meaty manual you got a lot out of. Airborne Ranger, because there was a little bit of history of the Rangers. There was a developer history story thing that I wished more manuals would do.
Yep. That's a good call out. Airborne
yeah.
Ranger was a good manual.
Zorro was the worst manual.
What was the Zorro manual like? I don't remember.
It's like a couple things that told you, like, move here to block, move here to thing, and he told your senorita go. And that was it. There's nothing to it. It's something you would have fit on the inside of a tape cover kind of thing. It's meant to be small and tight, but it didn't give you enough on how to play the game to play the game.
I gotta say, I gave Darklands the worst manual.
Really?
Because as much as I loved all the history and stuff, when it came time to actually find things that told you how to play the game, I really struggled with it. Like, we had that moment when we were talking about it where we were trying to explain how the character creation works. And like, it's not that clear in the manual, and it's difficult to find. It's Duke Nukem.
Oh, shoot.
Guest appearance by Duke Nukem.
Why did it do that? Don't do that. Oh, my God.
We get $10 from 3D Realms every time this happens.
Oh, my God, no.
Are you going to pull up the manual and
Yeah, I was looking for some stuff, but I guess I won't right now. Never mind.
well, anyway, I thought it was a little frustrating because that game is very complicated and it needed a very concise manual where you could find things relatively easily, and it doesn't have a lot of charts. It's a lot of words, and it's not easy to navigate.
That's fair. I mean, I like the fluff. You know what I mean?
I like fluff too, and I was hesitant because I really appreciate that they put so much work into it, but just from the layout perspective, that I wasn't into.
Yeah, I can't disagree.
Yeah.
Okay. But my best manual.
Yeah, what was your best?
Road War 2000.
Road War was a great SSI manual.
SSI
good table,
manual, right?
Everything you need to know. Good call.
Yeah, and there was some stuff about how to play the game that was hidden in the fluff. Like things you're like, oh, I gotta actually read this to know what I'm doing. But not so much fluff that you didn't want to read it kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it did world building. It did how to play. It had a lot of charts. Good call. That's a solid manual.
Next set after that. I lost all our scoring.
Story is the next. Do you need a second to get your thing back up?
No, I'm going to just pull this over here. Story, yeah. What you got? Best and worst. Worst and best.
Worst story I gave to Hacker because it's pretty ridiculous and it's really kind of dumb. And it was just layered over the top of the game to justify it. It didn't make any sense at all.
Right.
Best story, I think I gave to. Well, I know I gave it to. Maniac Mansion. I think the Maniac Mansion story is really good. It's campy sci-fi, which I liked. Yeah.
Okay. We agree on. Go ahead.
I gotta say, I should have given it to Deus Ex because the Deus Ex story is way better than Maniac Mansion. In fact, maybe I just no, I didn't put it in the wrong column. Deus Ex story, yeah, I yield on that because that's what you're gonna say, right?
It totally is.
Because it's the right answer. It really was a better story.
I was about to go, well, we agree on Hacker, and then you're like, no, I'm changing it to Deus Ex. I'm like, well, now we just agree. Continuing on.
Did you say Hacker was the worst?
Oh,
really?
yeah. Hacker was the worst story.
Yeah, the Hacker story is just absolutely ridiculous. Like, they shred a document, and somehow spies get the
one
shreds
piece.
Right. You get one piece of the shredded document, and the only way you can appease them is by giving them a series of items that you have to buy. Like it
and of completely varying value. One wants a deed to a Swiss chalet. One wants an old record. Like,
Right.
there's no.
It's stupid.
It's stupid. It's stupid. Yeah. So, boop. So that was story Game World.
This one was hard. Probably. I, I'm looking at what I put. I also gave Hacker the worst game world, but I don't think that's true because it had. I really liked that they had real locations.
Mm-hmm.
So on the fly, I'm going to change the game world and say that Crusader No Remorse was the worst game world. Uh, not because the the political world was so bad, but because the locations were so stupid. Like the offices were full of industrial equipment and the industrial worlds were full of office equipment. It just didn't make any sense. I didn't really like the Crusader world, and even the political stuff has been done. So
Okay. Best Game World?
best, this one was really hard, uh, because I love the Street Beat game world. I love the Darklands game world. But ultimately, I gave it to Road War 2000 because I love me some post apocalyptic car shit. Like, I can't get enough of that. Except Auto Duel.
Except Auto Duel. I wanted to give it to Road War, but like the colored cars, it's everything. It just. I liked a lot of the world. It didn't always sell it to me correctly. So I went a different direction.
I like that there were all the factions and the blow, like the irradiated cities, and the richness of having unique things in each geographic location, like the Indy 500 at Indianapolis, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
No, I totally get that, and I can get behind that and agree with that. Every one of my answers here, except for the honorable mention, will surprise you. I guess there's only two other answers, so that was overhyped.
Whatever, I like a good surprise. So
Honorable mention is Darklands. I thought it's a
yeah,
good game world. Obviously, they didn't have to really work hard to make that game world. They just took a medieval Germany and polished it
they
over.
did it well.
But they did it well. Yeah.
They managed to get fantasy elements into a realistic game world. The game world in Darklands was great.
Yeah. It is one of those games where if I don't get to play it before I retire, it will be one of my on my retirement list. Finish this game because it's really good. You want to take a stab at what the worst game world was for me?
Rise of the Triad?
Nope.
No,
Bruce Lee. Why are you collecting lamps? What do
Right.
lamps have to do with any of it? What I have so many questions. If the guy has this thing for immortality, why does just getting to his treasure room take it away? That's not immortal. What's going on? I'm so confused.
right, right. That's a great answer. The game world in Bruce Lee was just like a total misuse of really good intellectual property.
It really was. I mean, yeah. Am I over analyzing a Data East or Datasoft game from 1983? Oh yeah, way over analyzing it.
Can we call out also that Legacy of the Ancients was a really interesting game world? Just in the story alone, because it's like sci-fi and fantasy together, and that was really interesting, and I thought that was good. But yeah, there were a lot of really good game worlds
This whole year was full of good games. Even when we're ripping on something this year, with I think two notable exceptions, the other 20 games I could say play and you'll have a good time.
yeah.
But two of them, you know which ones they are. We all know which ones they are if you've watched this year's worth of shows. My best game world will also be a big surprise to you.
Beachhead
Ascendancy.
Ascendancy. No shit. Tell me about that.
It didn't. I mean, it was still sort of a 4X game, but there were reasons why you could go between different planets. it didn't make anything human or even human-esque. It was a completely alien world with alien needs and alien building things, and it felt alien. Like I kind of said that before in the interface. You're making an alien interface, I'm not an alien. But it sold the world. So that's why they did it. Doesn't make for a good game, but it does make for a good game world.
I think that you're right. I think that Ascendancy was a really good game world. I didn't even really give it too much thought, but that does hold up under scrutiny. So good call.
Look at me go.
I know. Look how unbiased and flexible we are. That you hated that game, but still gave it best world. We're terrific.
And we've said this a couple times where even when we're not liking something, we know there's something in there someone's going to dig on. And if the game world is what gets you into a game more than the other stuff, Ascendancy's your game. There are people who are going to really go for that.
Pick an alien race to love, pick a few to hate, and, whatever.
Yeah.
Go have fun with Ascendancy if you want to.
Yeah, you're going to click a lot, but that's on you.
We're not going to do it, but if you want to, we support you.
We support you in your decisions. All right, Game World. That leaves us with overall.
Whew. This was tough because there were probably 3 games on here that I wanted to say were the best.
I have 4, but yeah.
I wanted to say Darklands. I thought Darklands was a fantastic game. I wanted to say Legacy of the Ancients because that was a fantastic game. I mean, I love Terminal Velocity. I loved so many of these games, but ultimately I thought Road War 2000 was probably the best game that we played because it did so many different things. It was engaging. It was paced weird, but it moved along. The combat system was great. Like it would be a good tabletop. So Road War 2000, best game.
Best game. Worst game?
Zorro.
It's
Because
bad.
Because it's bad. And you proved that it's bad by trying to make it not bad. So that to me, that you spent so much time trying to figure out how to make it better and just ran out of steam on it.
You couldn't fix it without changing so much of it that it's not that game anymore. It's not like it needs a graphic tweak or it just needs the controls tightened or it needs the lives changed or something like that. You have to do all those things and then fix how the levels are laid out. And okay, you're in a new game now. You have to fix sword combat. You have to fix the sound. You have to fix how lives are awarded. You have to fix how scoring is. You have to fix how you telegraph where things go in the world. You have to fix save points. Okay, how is it Zorro anymore? You have to fix where treasures are located because they have you doing busy work, running back and forth to the same treasure repeatedly. And this time it's a wine bottle. This time it's something else. And you wouldn't think that was there. I would go back to the same spot to get the next thing. That's not logical in any way. Why wouldn't you grab all the things? Why wouldn't you then? So you'd want to add an inventory system rather than carry one thing at a time. Zorro, man.
Yep.
Zorro.
Not a good game.
Not a good game. My honorable mentions, 2 of them I share with you, Legacy of the Ancients and Road War 2000. I thought were both really great games. Deus Ex, overall, honorable mention. The best game to me this year was Terminal Velocity.
Wow, because we played it together. Aw, that's so nice. I really had fun with it. In fact, Terminal Velocity might be my most fun thinking back on it because we did get to play it
together.
Yeah, and that was really fun.
And the thing is, we've had other games in the past where we've tried to play them together and we've had to jump through hoops to make them happen. We didn't have to with Terminal Velocity.
Right.
Wasn't it just we loaded a different file and it went?
Yeah, I think, didn't we have to add something we should go back and watch it, to the DOSBox config But yeah, that's a good call out. And in fact, I think that may be the most fun now that I think of it, because I kind of forgot
Yeah.
that we played that multiplayer.
I think if it was single player, no. Road War would have trashed it.
Hmm.
If you're looking for a single player game, I don't know that Terminal Velocity is the one you want.
Yeah.
It's fun, but it's fun in that early 90s. We're figuring out 3D and we don't necessarily have gameplay nailed down yet. Fun.
Right.
But in head to head, just running around killing your friend,
Right.
that was a blast. That was
You're absolutely right.
so.
What did you put as worst?
Zorro. Zorro.
So Zorro was a short game. What would you say is the least fun long game? Is it Ascendancy?
Yeah. With Hacker, a close second.
Was Hacker a long game?
No, you're right. Least
Crusader
fun.
would be a secondary overall worst, I
Overall
guess.
worst. It would bump down to Crusader. I almost want, kind of like we retired Auto Duel.
Mhm.
Zorro needs to get retired, like Hall of
Yeah.
Fame, batted.
Yeah.
Crusader's not quite that bad. There are
No,
people who are gonna like Crusader, and I get that. I can get
I,
why.
I get it too. Crusader had redeeming qualities for sure.
Yeah.
And if you liked it, you're not wrong.
Yeah, it's not my jam, but
Yeah.
that's why we don't do reviews. We're not
That's right.
presuming to tell you what to think or how
Right.
you should feel about it. This is how we feel about it. You're gonna feel differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's our year look back.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Ready for next year? Ready to get started in 2021?
Let's get going. We got some exciting stuff happening.
Boop. These are our next games.
What the hell is Archon?
Archon.
Archon?
Archon.
Archon?
Archon.
What is that?
Chess, where when you move a piece onto a piece, you have like this little arcade fight, and it's not a guarantee you will take a piece because pieces have hit points. And you're trying to take over power slots on the game board world. And we will try to figure out how to do it head to head, but I'm not going to put too much effort into that.
Yeah.
There was a whole series of these games, and this is one that's been requested for a while.
Is that PC or is it?
I played it originally on Commodore, so there's probably very many versions of this out there for us to check out.
Good.
I think you'll get a kick out of it. I thought you were going to be like, what is that? Duke Nukem? What is that top one there? It is 25th anniversary of Duke Nukem this month.
Yes, this is probably the game we played the most together of any game. Well,
Yeah.
it's probably like now it's probably Orcs Must Die or something. That we
Orcs Must
played.
Die probably edged it out, but
played
Duke
that a
Nukem
lot.
3D is, and only maybe.
Right. Back in the day, we played the Duke excessively. So I am looking forward to playing both single player and maybe roping you into some
Oh, we'll do some.
Dramamine fuel multiplayer.
We'll just have to do it, and we'll work my tolerance up over the.
Yeah, 5-minute increments.
Yeah, I think half an hour was where I started getting sick, which is
Yeah.
funny because as a kid, I
No,
could
it was nothing.
nothing. We put hours in.
Yeah.
So
All right. And also, we're going to be doing another stream, right?
yes, almost
Let's
forgot.
talk about
Thank you. Starting this Thursday, we will be doing Nox Archaeist live on Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Central.
The new Apple II game.
New Apple II game. We're gonna play all the way through it. I've gotten a little bit of a head start, so I can kind of be ahead of you, and I'm trying to get some maps done.
I have been lagging, but I've started to like get into it a little bit just so I'm not stone cold. Although I will say that the learning curve will be dramatically less than Deathlord, which was super complicated and made no sense.
Yeah. I'm hoping, like, by having you go through it and me steering again, we'll do some things differently than how I did them, because I've, in my playthrough, have been, like, unlocking things backwards in a couple places, so it'll be fun to see how it changes when you do it from your side. But yeah.
And we're not going to shortcut it to the same extent that we shortcutted through Deathlord, because we didn't want to play Deathlord until retirement. Like, we wanted to get through it. But Nox, we're going to talk to the people in the town. You know, we're going to get the power-ups, everything.
Try and figure out where stuff is. We basically are playing enough right now to just know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Have a strategy going into it, and then we'll see if that plays out. So, all right. Anything else we should mention, talk about, think about, worry about?
I mean, there's so much to worry about.
Oh, yeah.
No, I think that concludes the business for 2020.
Yes, 2020 is closed and behind us now. So we will see you all in 2021.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Big thank you to all of you watching, sharing, liking, subscribing, suggesting games, commenting on our videos, or supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate all of your support and look forward to sharing many more videos with you. Thank you again.